Good evening, or really, really late night or early morning, depending on where, whatever. Good. Hi. Why do we gotta bring relative time into this? How you doing? Just leave it at that. Hi, how are you doing? Hope you're well. If you're not, well, not sure what I can do about that. I think I'm gonna, before I get the request to boost that audio, I'm just gonna do it right out of the gate. Welcome to episode 58 of Beyond the Double Red Doors, which is a lot. You know, I don't know how many people do this. Maybe only people with some sort of compulsive disorder do this, in which case forgive me and indulge me. But throughout my entire life, I've done some version of like step on a crack, break your mother's back, with numbers. My whole life I've done that. And like a few ways that it's manifested have been the mileage on my car, right? Feeling anxious when the first two digits, the odometer, approach my age and then pass my age. Volume on a television. When I'm going up the scale on a lot of TVs, TVs are 0 to 100. A lot of them aren't. A lot of them max out at like 80. It's hard not to go up that scale of volume and see when you reach your age, and then you can see how much of the bar is filled and how little of the bar remains to be filled. How else have I done that? I mean, I used to do it with, I still do, like have ticks. Like I'll have to like tap a certain number of times. Odd numbers. It's gotta be odd numbers. Don't do shit in even numbers. I'm not superstitious at all. I forget who said I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. It's just like a compulsion. I completely acknowledge that there's no rationale to it. Lexi, you count when you're anxious. Oh, what was the Luke from Haunting of Hill House did that as well. He would count, right, the number of his siblings over and over again, which made for a great frightening moment in the show. I don't remember if he counted. No, he didn't in the book, at least not that I recall. But yeah, definitely have been diagnosed, over the decades of my life with various kinds of obsessive and or compulsive behavior. And it has, I mean, I'm sure in my mind, it's like, well, this helps my anxiety because I do this and it calms my anxiety. But surely it's causative, right? The anxiety shouldn't be able to be calmed by something like that. It's a weird way of trying to wrest control from the universe into something, well, maybe equally meaningless, but be hard to argue. At least you could argue meaning for some of the other things. I don't know that you could argue meaning for what I do. Oh, whoa. Lexi, I do this too, but well, Yeah, you're talking about like moving your fingers, kind of like that. You know, what I noticed does that a lot too. I don't know. I think it's probably uh, a different reason, but as y'all might have guessed, I forced myself to watch. I didn't watch all 4 hours of it, but I watched more of it than I really was really healthy. Jordan Peterson was on the Joe Rogan Experience, all day, all night, yesterday. And I had had a plan for this week, which the initial idea was sparked by something I'll get to in a minute. But then I was like, oh, Jordan Peterson's going on Joe Rogan. Got to watch this. I'd never really noticed how much he, kind of like a sorcerer, is doing stuff with his hands when he's talking about the interconnectedness of how cultural Marxism will come in, and it will pervert any kind of ideology you try to present. And they'll get really angry, but like a frail kind of anger. Something else I noticed was, boy, not only is it seems like some of the mental acuity is going. Never been, I admit, like maybe this is part of my OCD. I have a bit of an obsession with the guy. I'm obsessed generally with like how many people buy into his shit. So maybe that's, part of that is more fool me. But part of it is also just like, I got to know if I'm going to take part in the greater cultural conversation, I want to hear what's being spouted. It was worthless. Like nothing even worth really like talking about came from that. It didn't, like, I was watching and I was like, okay, well, I have a few things that I'm planning on talking about. This may throw all that off the rails. Like, I think inside I was hoping that he would just say something. I mean, he said some outrageous stuff, but it's really not even worth going over. But he seems to have like lost a bit of his mental dexterity, or at least it appeared that way in this one case. But definitely, like, it seems frail. And when he, as he frequently does, like has so much suppressed rage, that he can't control. Like he cannot. When you start to see his bottom teeth, and my bottom teeth are almost as janky as his, and he like does this something like he'll start to do more like that, and you'll get like this really angry expression. He'll say, "You can't do that, man." Like, I suppose if you're 6, that's intimidating. I guess. Yeah, my dad was frail, right? I'm frail. My dad was frailer than I am, I think. But yeah, when he would get angry, it was. There's a lot that a stern voice and this malevolent expression, and he does have like very chiseled features, and he looks kind of evil when he does that. But like, if you have any knowledge of the context of who he is and the bullshit that he has claimed and the sort of the lies that he panders. I mean, this is a guy. I am shocked. Like he has said, he's lied so much about what has happened to him and what he's done. Saying that, like, a lot of people know about like he took a sip of apple cider and he was in hell. He was in hell. He claims he literally did not sleep a wink for 23 days. And if in one of these conversations, like when he made this claim, the person tried to clarify, I think trying to give him an out was like, "Oh, you mean like you can only sleep like an hour?" He's like, "No, I could not sleep at all for 23 days, laying in my bed at night in terror, staring at the ceiling, never able to close my eyes for 23 days. The world record for going without sleep is like 11 days. This guy's claiming he doubled that. Right? He's very forceful about it, and he gets mad. He puts on his mad face if you question the fact that he didn't sleep for 23 days after taking a sip of apple cider. I don't know. So when you make a claim like on the Joe Rogan Experience yesterday, he said something about 7 million children are dying from indoor particulate matter every year. And even Joe Rogan was like, 7 million children seems like a lot of children. Let's look that up. And it ended up being like, one, it wasn't indoor. It was basically like from pollution, over 500,000 kids a year either die or get terminal diseases from, and they're generally poor, right? In poor places where people are maybe burning stuff inside, or maybe they're, just the general environment might be pretty polluted. But it went from 7 million to 600,000, which 600,000 is plenty bad, right? But just he'll just make these statements, and if he doesn't get called on them, it's almost like he's so he's one of those people who benefits from his appearance and his charisma, although I'm certainly well past the point where I see anything but malevolence and honestly like greed and like a weird kind of man boy. Like he posted a picture of himself like in a tux with sunglasses, saying something like going over to Joe Rogan's to talk, right? Do you need to do that? Do you always need to wear like, I mean, I'm fine. Wear what you want. Actually, I don't even want to. Wear what you want. At least he wears interesting clothes. And he didn't go 5 minutes before claiming he was part of the Native American family that he's in. But no, anyway, okay. So point is, I had some things I wanted to talk about, and I was a little bit like, I better watch this because maybe this will change the conversation. It didn't, except for this part of it that's now been going on. Didn't he retired? How dare you, Amy? He retired as a professor emeritus. Not even 60 years old. And you got professor emeritus at the University of Toronto. I don't know when the last time was that he was actually teaching. No idea. But that's where he excels, is when he's in a situation where he has a captive audience, kind of like Steven Crowder with his change my mind shit. A captive audience, generally younger, which generally means a little more naive, more prone to like question their own beliefs if they're presented with something in this forceful sort of dramatic way that he will when he's doing his stentorian bit. And that's he was probably very successful with his students. He says that he retired because, oh my God, his press release for why he retired is abhorrent. I'm going by memory here, but it was something like, one of the main reasons he's retiring is because his own, and he said these words, his own white, cis, male students, excellently qualified because they were taught by him, are unable to get jobs, right? So, and he's blaming diversity and inclusion, right? Which is what I wanted to talk about today was really diversity, inclusion, and critical race theory, more specifically. Because, anyway, yeah. So he retired. Let me say hi to everybody, and then let's jump into something else. Okay, I'm just gonna go back a little bit because I don't want to. Well, that's not good, Vicky. I don't know that you should be doing that. Maybe go back to class. But hi. Whoa, look, it is Václav. It's been a while. since I've seen Václav. How are you doing? I know. Q, I'm like trying to stop. I just felt like I couldn't. It was so. I just worried that I guess I worried that there would be something that everybody was talking about, that some outlandish claim he made that I would be ignorant of. PG, how are you doing? But I prefer odd numbers. It's very weird. Like, I can't have my television, if it's a number, which they are now, I guess, but the volume has to be on an odd number, which is not. I mean, sorry, I've got weird tics. I do like stimming, self-soothing a lot. This is the same setup I use to work from, although the lighting is not this dramatic when I zoom in to work. But usually, if I'm muted, I will be doing something off camera to stop me from going insane. Hi, Oxy. I said hi to Q, right? Colorful Dreams, hi. How are you doing? Pivy. Yeah, I know. Václav is here, right? That is nuts. It's been almost a year since I've seen Václav. A new 742. Hi, Kitty Cat, hi. Everybody loves Václav. Maddie, hey, how are you doing? It's good to see you too. Oh, you didn't say good to see you, but I'm assuming you're here because you want to see somebody. Well, maybe it's not somebody in the chat. I don't know. No, we're not. We're definitely not more than usual. We're a little below usual for start of a stream, but I don't care about that anymore. I did. Gotta admit. I guess I'm probably at the point of the chat here where I was talking about him staying awake for 23 days. He's made a bunch of claims about himself that I think are just. Oh yeah, well, he did this in last night on Joe Rogan. He was talking about how he was on a board, and some board he was helping assist to do something about the shorelines, and he was like, "So I read 200 books on the subject," and Joe Rogan was like, "200 books? You read 200 books on the subject?" He's like, "Yeah, well, it was over the course of 2 years." It's fucking bullshit, Jordan. J-Joe, you didn't read 200 books on the subject. You didn't. Yeah, I'm sure you read books on the subject. You didn't read 200, just like it wasn't 7 million kids, and just like you didn't not sleep for 23 nights straight. Why are you a fabulist? Why? I've had that problem in the past. What's weird about me, like my fabulism, I don't know why I'm talking about me again. Let's talk about all my problems. So I have the anxiety, but I also have this fabulism problem. I've really been trying to stop it because it ties into like a more nefarious problem with lying in general. And I have a problem. I definitely do. But it's things like I will lie about things that mean nothing. There's no reason for me to lie about it. Sometimes, like usually it's like, well, someone's asking me this question. The answer doesn't really matter to them. But this answer is going to make things slightly easier. I think this is the logic going on in my head. So I'm going to give him this answer, even though it's not true. So, I tell someone I'm going to pick up toilet paper, right? I'm out in the car or I'm at work and I haven't yet picked up the toilet paper, and they call and they say, "Did you pick up the toilet paper?" Now, I know I'm going to go pick up the toilet paper before I get back to the house. Haven't done it yet. But rather than say, I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to, I will say, yeah, I got the toilet paper. Now that might be that, like a lie like that, I might tell because I'm trying to avoid, I'm trying to avoid being like reprimanded, right? For, well, don't forget to get the toilet paper. And two, I'm probably also trying to avoid, well, can you call me when you're in the store and there might be some things I need you to get or something. I might be like, maybe that's going on. I don't know. But I've lied for like nefarious reasons as well. And I think like I need to address the whole problem. I just, like, why am I lying about the dumbest fucking crap? But Peterson's lies are very much like self-aggrandizing lies. It is, I walked 600 miles in one day across a desert on peyote. 600 miles? You walked 600 miles? Well, it might have been 50 miles, but I think it was 600. I've also lost my ability. I want to do it. I want to do a follow-up Jordan Peterson video, but I don't know. I don't know. What else do we got here? And we'll move on. I promise. Although we're not going too far. Old Man Hiver. Well, he totally is. Like, and even I fundamentally disagree with like the idea that like his main precept of, and most people will say like Jordan Peterson is appropriating some, God, I can't get off it, can I? He's appropriating self-help, like basic self-help tenets, and he's rolling them into something more nefarious. But he hooks you with the initial sort of self-help stuff that works. And that's a lot of people, like whether they're progressive or not, will say that self-help stuff works. Make your bed in the morning works. Not for me. Does not work for me. Like for me, any sort of small objectives that I can view as futile, doing them doesn't make me feel better. It makes me feel worse. Now, I feel like there is a correlative bias there. Like when you wake up in the morning, you have your blood settled. You haven't really, your brain is foggy. There's a lot that's going on that you need to kind of, your brain wakes up before, or your body wakes up before your brain fully does, all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, it could be that like, it takes you 15 minutes to make your bed. You're therefore kind of doing some activity. And at the end of that 15 minutes, you feel better. You'd feel better maybe even if you just got up and just walked, but didn't make your bed, right? Like that's, when I make my bed, I feel worse. If I make my bed, I look at my bed and I think, why the fuck did I just do that? I'm going to ruin it in 12 hours. Why am I going to do this again and again and again? So I even disagree with like because there are people like who well-known sort of left-wing progressives who will say that like, yeah, this self-help stuff is real. And I mean, maybe it is real in that it works for a lot of people. It just doesn't work for me. Fucking making your bed. Actually, when I learned that making your bed can help prevent bed bugs, that seems to me like the only reason to make your bed. But if you're in a place where you don't have to worry about bed bugs, why are you doing it? Oh, did I already hit it? Should just be Jordan Peterson all the way across. Okay, let me get down here. Oh, that's great to hear and see. And I'm glad I hope you're, glad you're doing great. This is the kind of bullshit I'm talking about. Yeah, like it's absurd. Yeah, I mean, do I hope that's true? It would make me feel less of a freak. Q, don't worry about it. You're my favorite. By the way, Q, at some point, if I don't, there's a thing that you sent me that I'd love for people to see. Think about if you're okay with people seeing that. Okay, let's get down to the bottom here. Nick, something looks different. I'm probably a little. I'm significantly brighter lit than I used to be. I don't know. Is it better or worse? I don't know. I noticed that I tend to go for like a kind of like this. See if we can do it here. Oh, come on. I usually try to go for like a darker look like that. And so I'm just trying. Oh, that's not. It didn't get back to where we were. Going more flat. A little less moody, but my skin is more in the regular sort of recognized register for my particular skin tone. Anyway, get to the bottom here. Okay, got to the bottom. Let's move on to the meat. A bunch of like crappy stuff happened this week. Some of it. Well, no, it was a bunch of stuff happened this week. Some of it was crappy, and some of it was not so crappy. One of the things, and the thing that kind of kicked off my desire to do this was, and I didn't. This was a surprise to me. At my work, I attended an intersectionality symposium, which, for those of you who do not know, like at least intersectionality has a colloquial meaning. The meaning here is more like, when we're talking about racism, we're not just talking about like black men. Like it's like, where do these things, like white women benefited from the suffragette movement and feminism. Black women didn't benefit as much. That kind of stuff. So like, where do all these combination conditions intersect? So I attended an intersectionality symposium at work. There's a bunch of us there, and some people speaking. We had 4 speakers, one of whom was someone I work with, quite regularly. One of them I saw, and I was like, I feel like I recognize that person. And when she was introduced, it was Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw. And for those of you who don't know who Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw is, she coined the term critical race theory. She's a lawyer, a professor. Was I? Maybe not a doctor. Sorry. I'm just looking that up right now. If she's not, she should be. Anyway, so I got to attend a symposium where the featured speaker was Kimberly Crenshaw. And it was at a symposium on intersectionality, which of course touched on critical race theory, which has been something that I've sort of quietly on my own looking into and making sure that I understand it, and making sure that the efforts that I go to through what little power that I have through advocacy or what have you, that I'm wielding it as appropriately as I can. But it was a fascinating. I mean, it was an all-day thing, right? And it was fascinating. And so one of the things that I did right afterwards was I was like, okay, well, let me look into this like a little more, because the other thing is I live in Virginia, right? I mean, I'm very, very, very close to DC, so just over the river. But I live in Virginia, right? So for those of you who don't know, Virginia has long been a blue state when it comes to governors, representatives, etc. And just like DC. And we recently lost the governor's seat. The governor's seat went red, largely on the fear-mongering behind critical race theory being taught in elementary schools. So I got a lot of parents whipped up in a frenzy with these ideas that if their children are white, they're being forced to sit on the floor, and in some cases even wear, Halloween chains. They're being told that their children should be interrupted, spoken over, and treated like second-class citizens so that they can get the empathy required and the perspective required for them to understand what it's like to grow up in a system that is fundamentally, systemically racist. So that's like grossly misrepresenting so much in such a small amount of time. But that is the way it was presented in order for the new governor, Glenn Youngkin, to come in and unseat a Dem stronghold. So I'm sure everybody knows I consider myself like a progressive liberal. Not a classic liberal. Not a neoliberal. A progressive liberal. And that's working within the confines of the system that we have, right? So and this is a problem, right? Is the whole let's kick the can down the road, right? Let's work with what we have. Let's try to make what we have incrementally better. And that's one of the things that critical race theory challenges is that one of the statements it makes is, and please forgive me if you all are already, I'm sure you all are familiar with this already, but is that we've taken a whole lot of, we've basically fixed to a decent extent, we've fixed the laws as read to be non-exclusionary. And by doing that, what we've done is we've essentially forced these same forces that still exist. There are plenty of people alive right now, right, whose grandparents were slaves. Whole lot of people whose great-grandparents were slaves. I find it like when we think about the idea of slavery as like something that's in our past that we should just bury and kind of forget about. One, like changing a law, like just because you know something is right and you change a law, that doesn't change the way people think. Two, every law is subjective. Every opportunity for that law to be applied is done through a person. And that person, when the law was changed, their brain didn't just like instantly change. They didn't instantly become not racist or biased towards their own, their own race, their own gender. They didn't lose that. That takes active work. Like you cannot, it's not enough to just not be racist. And I think I've thrown this in the chat before, so I won't throw it out again, but please like look up, I think it's called the Parable of the Paragons by Weihart. It's an excellent visual. If you're a visual learner and you want to see like how segregation will never be overcome by stopping at let's not be racist anymore, right? Even if we're successful and able to be like, okay, we've done it now. We are no longer racist. It's not enough. Like it or not, if we want equality, some form of reparation needs to happen. And we need to figure out what that is, right? We need to study it. We need to learn about it. We need to understand what that could be so that we don't have one group of people who benefit from intergenerational wealth, right? Largely speaking, I'm not saying everybody, right? And another group who, if you go back 150 years, they were owned by the first group. Literally, they were treated as property by the first group. So critical race theory is divisive. People don't want to let go of what they have, especially, and they're speaking out of both sides of their mouth, right? Like on one side of their mouth, they're saying, these systems are not, well, they authored these systems, and then they claim that these systems are not racist. And yet, if you want to challenge that and you're able to show that, like, well, okay, now if you just read what's on this paper, right, that's not racist. But if you look at the judicial system on paper, it's not racist. Maybe there are still some racist laws on the books, but generally they've been eliminated. Is the judicial system in America racist? Yes, it is still racist because judges interpret laws, judges hand down sentences, the socioeconomic positions of the disenfranchised tend to be more one race than another. We all know police officers have issues. So it's a mindset that needs to change, and you get a lot of outrage from people who are saying, well, no, we're post-racist. We're post-racist. We had a black president. I hear you hear that a lot too, being thrown around. We have a black president. We had a black president. Did you notice like the president we got after that president? Did you pay attention to what that guy was saying? I don't know, man. Like any progress made from 2008 to 2016 culturally largely erased by, in my opinion, and most people's opinion, I think one of the most divisive presidents ever. So anyway, yeah, exactly, right? And yet they will also claim that the system does not benefit them, right? So I was watching a bunch of stuff by a bunch of people and stumbled across this one person who is particularly has a bee in his bonnet about critical race theory. Oh, hey, Olevi, how are you doing? It's good to see you. Has a particular bee in his bonnet about critical race theory, and his name is James Lindsay. And what the? Oh, I can show the thing? Oh, do I have the thing? Wait, let me get the thing. This Paulo. Yeah. The feigning of ignorance is so frustrating, right? I mean, we claim to evolve past seeing color in society, and we've put into place like a whole bunch of laws in the last 40, 50 years, which were a recognized attempt to level the playing field for the historically marginalized. But we haven't conquered racism. Laws don't change feelings, and there's always subjectivity in structure. even like an algorithm is designed by a person, right? And these subtle biases manifest in ways that are, in some ways, they're more nefarious because they're very hard to call out. Like it's hard to point to the thing. Like somebody says the N-word, you're like that, you know. But if there is a system that like subtly just gives like the slightest edge to one group over another, and it does it through a sort of Byzantine process whereby it's very hard to trace the root. Right? Redlining is an example of this. I mean, any job in tech right now, most of the jobs in tech are held by people who, when they were young, were able to afford computers. And if you're my age or around my age, like when I was a kid, a computer was between like $6,000 and $10,000, which is, I mean, imagine that in today's money, double it. I mean, you had to have a lot of money to have like an IBM PC, a brand name IBM PC, or a PS2, not PlayStation 2, IBM PC. PS2, yeah. Wait, Personal System 2? I think it was. Oh, I got to look that up now. Because I remember when, yeah, it's PS/2. I remember the IBM PS2 that I had, Personal System /2. Before the events occurred where I was no longer in the upper middle class, it was, I want to say it was like $5,000 or $6,000. You could not spend $1,500 and get a great computer the way you can today. It was much more difficult. So the people, anyway, I don't want to rabbit hole on that, but the point is the people who were able to get those, to have access to those things, were the people who then were able to leverage them into careers and become leaders of industry, CEOs whose qualifications amount to, I played a lot of video games as a kid, and then I programmed one. But to address like the point, was it Paulo? The one that Paulo made? Frustrating that they feign ignorance. Yeah, it's a faux outrage. And one of the things that they try to do is like they conflate acknowledging the issue. Like if you acknowledge racial bias, they will call you a racist. Right? And that's very convenient. If you don't want the system to change, it's very convenient for you to be able to say like, well, if you want the system change, it must be because you're racist, because I'm saying we don't see color anymore or gender or it's also very strange that like there's a very common saying about like people who are so coddled and blessed that to them equality feels like oppression, right? Yeah, Black people get harsher sentences for the same crimes. State and city subsidies go to particular neighborhoods that tend to be white neighborhoods. Same thing with business loans, right? Like they say that a zip code is like the single greatest predictor of wealth is your zip code. And I know this because of the field in which I work. And I know I tweeted about this, but it's like weird to me that like people like me are totally fine accepting whatever gifts my father or my grandfather was able to, whatever my grandfather was able to give to my father and whatever my father was able to give to me. Totally fine accepting that, right? But if there's some sort of cutoff for saying, well, I'm not racist. My grandfather, my great grandfather, maybe owned slaves, but it's not fair to call me that I have to pay for that crime. I did take the money that he generated largely on the backs of free labor. But I'm not gonna. I'll take all the good stuff, but don't you dare imply that I need to feel guilty from not taking the bad stuff. Deny me my birthright. It's bury the sin, and we can maintain the status quo. I can't even imagine what it would be like if I knew that my great grandfather or my grandfather. I only knew my grandparents very briefly, but if I knew that they were slaves when they were growing up, which I'm a generation removed from that, but the generation before me, some of their grandparents grew up slaves. And when they were freed in 1865, I should know that date. I think it's 1865. What did they get? They didn't get anything. They went from actually being property to being essentially wage slaves. Anyway. And then we've got, so we got, like, look at this. This is our new governor, ladies and gentlemen. Glenn Youngkin. Look at him. Look at that little, he's giving the little thumbs up. Don't fully extend the thumb. You just kind of let it rest there on the meaty, fleshy pad of your curled index finger. Just a little thumbs up. That's the way to do it. Oh, what just happened? Why did that happen? I don't know what happened there. Let's see if it worked. Okay. Yeah, this is an opinion piece, so I don't want to get into it. But yeah, this is the guy. Don't want to teach our kids about racism.
More than what we think we deserve.
I want to make a version of that that's less than what we think we deserve. I realize this is like not a fun topic, and maybe not an interesting topic, and certainly for some people, right? And it's being debated by people much more qualified to do so than me. It's just very difficult for me to ignore. Yeah, and even the liberal hero Joe Biden was against desegregating schools with busing in the 80s. Oh, it's interesting you caught that, Q. So, like, I generally don't listen to Ghost because I don't love their kind of theatricality. Like, I'm not that into that, and it feels a little ersatz to me, a little Alice Cooper-y. But they have a new song that I really like, Call Me Sunshine. I do like that new song. So I will listen to Papa Emeritus sing Call Me Sunshine. Sure. Oh, hey, it's Indigo. How are you doing, Indigo? Yeah. What are the fun topics? Anyway, let's jump into this real quick. So I was investigating. I was listening to. I wanted to get a fair kind of account of both sides, and so I was listening to James Lindsay, which I shouldn't be doing any more than I should be listening to Jordan Peterson. But he somehow has set himself up to be the one of the talking heads, one of the talking intelligent heads, in opposition to critical race theory. So he sort of took it on himself. Check this out, just so you know who this person is. Let's see. I don't know the volume on this. Let's see if this works. So this is James Lindsay kind of introducing a thing about critical race theory.
Series on critical pedagogy, the critical turn in education, actually. So critical education theory. But I got asked today, if I had a chance,
I know it's a little quiet.
Tell people, in particular state legislators or school board members, or maybe even school superintendents, maybe the top 5 things that I would say about critical race theory in education, what would I boil it down to? And it's very difficult to pick.
What would he boil it down to?
I picked 5, and I'm actually just kind of going to go through those. Since it's the podcast, I'm not going to just limit myself to 5. I will, for example, I would point out to any...
Okay, so he's about to make his first point, like, what should you know about critical race theory? Okay, I love this image here. I love the little brain. This is the new discourse. Everybody get on board. Let's hear what James Lindsay is about to say about that you should know. You really need to know this about critical race theory and critical race theorists.
That wants to deal with critical race theory, that the first thing that I would actually tell them, it says not on my list of the 5, is that they're liars. And you must understand that critical race theorists are liars. And in that they are liars, they will lie about critical race theory and just about anything else to advance their agenda. They will lie about history. They'll lie about what they're doing. They'll lie about the budget. They'll lie about literally everything to keep advancing critical race theory. So
I mean, that sounds fair and balanced to me, right? So going right into it, he just says basically anything that any critical race theorist says is a lie, and they're all liars. They're all just liars. So it doesn't really matter what they say. So that was my introduction to James Lindsay, and it sort of left a pretty crappy impression. Oh, wait, I'm seeing... Oh no, Indigo. That sucks. I hope that you're able to find something. So anyway, I couldn't stop there. Guess who was on Joe Rogan about a week ago? That's right. James Lindsay was. And you can probably guess what he looks like. What do you like? If you don't know what James Lindsay looks like, I'd like you to imagine what you think James Lindsay looks like. Not that appearance means anything, but imagine what you think James Lindsay looks like. And then I'd also like you to imagine what the most obsequious, bootlicking kind of bullshit responses you could imagine when you're having a conversation with Joe Rogan. And I know everybody who goes on Joe Rogan, it seems, with very few exceptions, they're just bobbleheads, right? Just Tim Heidecker did a great parody of it. But so to see it like happen over and over again, I just think like people would get the message, like you have to bow down at the altar of Rogan or you're in trouble. Let's see what James Lindsay, maybe James Lindsay won't bow down. Maybe he'll disagree with something that Joe Rogan says. Let's check it out.
Yeah. He's just a guy who he was like an boots on the ground journalist for Vice.
Yeah. Yeah. He was like all up in Occupy.
Yeah. He was an Occupy Wall Street guy.
Yeah.
It was like right there.
I know Tim very well. He's not alt-right at all, but he'll entertain a conversation with anybody.
He will.
He will. okay, he had O'Keefe from Project Veritas on the other day.
Yeah.
And that's like, that guy's the boogeyman to the left.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
Like,
totally.
even if what he's saying is a fucking threat, he's exposing threats to democracy.
Yeah.
He's exposing real live corruption. He's exposing real live conspiracies.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And they're like, no, but it's Veritas.
But
like,
I really, really like. This is why Joe Rogan makes the big bucks. That's why Joe Rogan makes the big bucks. Right there.
but it's Veritas.
But
like,
it's Veritas, yeah.
they've
Look, he even echoed the. You didn't need to. I realize you're parroting everything Joe Rogan says, James Lindsay, but you didn't need to parrot that part there.
But
like,
it's Veritas, yeah.
they've somehow or another decided that an individual can be like, it's almost like a cure to the reality of whatever he's exposing. Like, you could say, oh, it doesn't matter because it's James O'Keefe. And you can put that on top of the thing and it all goes away.
Yeah, exactly.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's extremely wild. I mean,
That's wild. Yes, it's extremely wild.
that's again your show.
So that's James Lindsay, and he believes that everyone who is a critical race theorist is a liar. Everyone. And what is critical race? Like, what are the horrible things that critical race theory are going to do? Well, it's cultural Marxism. It's going to turn into, real Marxism. If we let it, we must stop critical race theory from being taught.
Blue open mass formation psychosis.
Well, that's not a thing. Don't you know that's not even a thing?
Well, yeah, I saw that.
It's not even a real thing.
There's
I think I want that as my wallpaper. Let's see.
like, I don't know if that thing that they just did with the COVID is like panned out or not.
I don't know if that thing that they just did with the COVID has like panned out or not. He's talking about a Veritas report that said that COVID might have been engineered by the government, and we knew that there were certain curatives for it, and we released it in August of 2019, which is bullshit. But there's a report, so we better investigate it, especially because it's in line with what your personal views are. You want them to be. It's
more than what we think we deserve.
The thing with the COVID, I don't know if the thing that happened with the COVID, if that panned out. I don't know if that was like a thing that actually did anything become of that. I'm not sure. Anyway, so that's James Lindsay. So you get a bonus point if you predicted. Forget it. I'm not doing that. Sorry. How you appear doesn't matter. But sometimes a rat looks like a rat, right? Anyway, so he was also recently on Jordan Peterson's daughter's podcast, Michaela Peterson. Michaela Peterson is, oh boy, her and her dad are two peas in a pod. She's definitely not like, she definitely didn't go through like the rebelling against authority phase. I don't think the money was in it for her to do that. I think she already had sort of the established audience. She knew who she needed to play to if she wanted to get clicks. Václav, you keep saying anyway. I'm assuming that means you don't want me to talk about politics, but that's what I'm doing. Yeah, I do want to show the thing. All right, let me show the thing. It has like a brief respite. As a brief respite, I will show the thing. If I can find the thing. Okay, got it. So Q, our beloved Q, reached out to Erebus. Oh, do I say anyway a lot? I say right a lot, and I say anyway a lot. I gotta get past that. Q, there's more to come. I haven't gotten to the nub of it yet. But anyway, Q, wonderful Q, reached out to Erebus and asked if they could put the logo, the little logo here that that Erebus made up for this thing that's going on a hoodie. And I was like, yeah, I didn't see it for a while. Sorry, Q. I know you asked like weeks ago, and I just didn't see it because when I go on Discord, I just go straight to the Cult of Grinning Martyrs server. If anyone here is not a part of the Cult of Grinning Martyrs Discord server, why not join today? But Q got it done. Q got it put on a hoodie, and it looks great because it's the red and the black. That's like my favorite, the anarcho-syndicalist colors. So here I'm going to put, this is the unofficial merch. Oh, hey. Show up, man. Whoops. It's really big. It's too big, Q. I can't. This is going to take a moment for me to even get the corner so I can size it properly. There we go. Okay. Now it's too small. Okay. That's about the right size, right? Look at that. I think that works great. Even and it looks high quality. I hesitate to ask what that set you back, Q. Oh, and this too, Colorful Dreams. You're right. I still have not watched what is known in North America as Money Heist. Very hard to get me to watch something that's called Money Heist. But I thought this was really neat. Like, this looked better than I thought it would. It's the kind of thing that I would wear. But anyway, yeah. Q did this of their own accord, with their own capitalist monies. And I think it's a hoodie. I do kind of want to ask you. Oh, you didn't. You just said here. Really? For two color printing like that? That was just for the printing then, not the hoodie also. But I thought this was great. I thought this looked great. I'm not into merch, like, generally. But I thought this was cool. And very neat of Q to do it. But maybe I'm lying. I might be lying. I can't forget it's called Money Heist. I wish I could. How many people were involved in the decision for the translation of that? First of all, it's not even a literal, I could see where if it was called Ladrón Dinero. Oh, Dinero Ladrón. Ladrón de Dinero. I don't know. Is that what it would be in Spanish? Money Heist. But it's not even, sometimes you can see it's like a literal translation. It doesn't work. It's not even a literal translation. They took the house of, actually, I don't know, papel. Oh, it's paper, of course. The house of paper, and turned that into Money Heist. I don't get it. I know, I am impossible. That makes so much sense. Yeah. That makes complete sense. But Money Heist is still a shit name. But now, yes, that does make a good amount of sense. Thank you, CRG464. Yeah, that's why it's a dumb name. The qualifier is not needed. It could just be called Heist. It seems not to matter. Whatever I talk about, I'm trying to draw stuff out here. I've only been going for an hour. See, if you're stealing something other than money, that's when you need the qualifier, right? If you're stealing hearts, right, then you need to say, I'm stealing hearts. If you're stealing NFTs, let's say you're a billionaire heiress. Let's just say you are. I don't know if you are or not. You might be. I don't know. But if you are a billionaire heiress.
That song?
Bruno Mars, Just the Way You Are.
Aw.
Like,
Love that song.
Did you,
let's
any
say
other songs,
Paris Hilton.
Under consideration?
Stars Are Blind, my song.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Kim
Oh, so by the way, she was just talking about her wedding there. She had her own song played at her wedding, hosted at her estate, her grandfather's estate.
That'd be great.
She already sang it. Kim Petras, my friend, sang it as I was walking down the aisle. So,
She did?
Yes.
I ran into your mom, by the way, who's
Cool.
super cute and
Jimmy
awesome
Fallon.
and funny, and she told me that Demi Lovato crushed it.
Oh my God, that was just.
Oh, man,
so
Demi
beautiful
Lovato was
singing,
spot
I Will Always
on.
Love You. Everybody was
Demi
crying.
Lovato is legit, man.
So talented.
So much.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun. Well, how was your mom during the wedding?
She was a lot of fun.
So we're just talking about a billionaire heiress's wedding. What subject do you think we could talk about going on from this that would be even more nauseating?
No one knows how to throw a party like my mom. Like that's where I get it from.
She seems fun.
Yeah, she's so cool. She loves you. She said she loved seeing you the other night.
I do. I think she's great. But also,
Let's see.
she's just a character. She's so fun. I mean, she's the best thing on television.
Thank
I know.
you.
I think she's the funniest person. I want to show everyone a clip of your show. This is Paris finding wedding inspiration in the craziest.
Oh, wait.
Where is this place?
Las Vegas, Area 15. It's like an indoor Burning Man. It's
It's like an indoor Burning Man. Can you imagine an indoor Burning Man? I mean, the premise of Burning Man, it's predicated on its outdoorsness. I mean, it's an important concept, outdoors. Imagine bringing Burning Man indoors. What a terrible idea.
sick.
This is real. Take a look at it.
I've been going to Burning Man for the past 10 years. It's one of my favorite events. It's so magical and it's like nothing on earth. And Area 15 is like an indoor Burning Man.
Oh, I like how she says the exact same thing there. It's like an indoor Burning Man.
So I thought, what a better way to kick off the weekend.
What a better way to kick off the weekend? Or she means what better way to kick off the weekend? But this is not actually what I wanted to talk about.
That place.
Here it is. What could Paris Hilton and Jimmy Fallon talk about that is like so disconnected? Like, could they be any more disconnected and reprehensible than they are right now? I don't know why the audience is applauding. I don't know. I mean, Jimmy Fallon is getting paid, I guess. Great, good for him. I don't know. Has he lost his soul or is he pretending? I don't know. But they decided to end on this.
You were on the show. I asked you to explain NFTs, and you did so in a great way, which is a very hard thing to really explain to a lot of people. But since then, Forbes has named you one of the top 50 most influential people in the NFT space. So congrats on that. You know what you're doing.
Thank you. I'm so proud. I love being a part of this community and being a voice and sharing my platform and just getting the word out there because I think it's just such an incredible thing to be a part of.
Yeah.
It's an incredible thing to profiteer off of.
I jumped in.
I know, I heard. I'm so happy I taught you what they were.
You did. You taught me what's up, and then I bought an ape.
I got an ape too because I saw you on the show with Beeple and you said you got a MoonPay, so I went.
Look, they both bought ape NFTs. Isn't that cute?
And I copied you and did the same thing.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look how he goes, you did?
This is your.
Oh, and he's surprised, and look, there it is, right in front of him, and he knew right where it was. But it's a surprise.
Ape.
I didn't know.
It's really cool.
I didn't know that that thing was right there by my hand.
Like the hat, the shades.
Wow.
Now what? How did you pick? Because you can pick your ape.
I'm purposely covering it up so you all can't steal it.
Yes, I was going through a lot of them, and I was like, I want something that like kind of reminds me of me, but this one, it does. I think we made like another version of it where he takes the hat off and blonde hair comes out.
Yeah, because you can do it now whatever you want.
Animated version.
Like, how much more alienated can these people be from Gen Pop? Right? So they went from talking about hosting a multi-million-dollar wedding at a billionaire's estate to talking about an indoor Burning Man to talking about the NFTs that they both bought. Reprehensible. And here, Peter Robbins committed suicide today or yesterday. The voice of Charlie Brown, like my whole life growing up, and a lot of people's lives growing up. He really captured the essence of Charlie Brown. Anyway, how far Jimmy has fallen. Yeah, I don't know how we got it. It was something about currency that got us there. But I want to get back to, now that we've covered Q's merch. And oh, hey, Roman Check and Gigi NYC. It's good to see you both. Let's get back to, yeah, right, Maddie? Like, this is very sad to me. I wanted to, do I still have, I do. This is the song that, I think this is like my introduction to like bad music. And the power of melancholy and melancholia in music. This doesn't really have Charlie Brown in it. This is Snoopy Come Home. Gets me. Yeah. So Charlie Brown, Peter Robbins was apparently, I didn't know this, but depressive, alcoholic, addiction problems for his whole life. Anyway, he was definitely
more than what we think we deserve.
And now he's gone. So that's sad. All right. I'm getting back on track here. Critical race theory. A defense of critical race theory by Phoenician Sailor. So I was digging into, obviously, like I played some of James Lindsay's stuff. So he also went on Jordan Peterson's daughter's podcast. And there were some interesting things said on that podcast. So she has a podcast where she calls it Opposing Views. The format's a little weird to me because she will have people on with opposing views. She will have someone on from the left, someone on from the right. Opposing insofar as the United States two-party system allows you to be opposing. She'll have them on and then she'll talk to one at one point, one time, and then the other one like a separate time, which it makes it not. Oh, good night, Maddie. Hope you're able to fall asleep soon. Which is weird to me. Like it makes it it makes it just like monologues from the people, right? And then in this case, at least, she had James Lindsay go first. She's very clearly biased against critical race theory. She had James Lindsay go first, and a YouTube debater named Vaush, who I'm sure some people here maybe know, go second. And basically everything that James Lindsay said to her, like if you watch the whole thing, it's like James Lindsay said a bunch of stuff to her. She parroted that stuff back to Vaush and was like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? And it was stuff that like well, let me show you like an example, right? But it's strange to me because like it's very much like I just learned about this thing by talking to this person, and I did a Google search on it, and now I'm going to present it as if like it's an opinion that I have held. It's a long held belief that I've had. And what do you have to say about it? Is it this one? Which one is it? I should have named these differently. Shoot. This one?
Okay, then last question probably. What happens if we don't do anything?
Okay, so this is
it's hard to guess. Communism's never worked and it's not
right. So the last question that was asked was like, what happens if we don't stop critical race theory from taking root, being taught in schools? What is the logical outcome of that? Now, a reasonable sort of rational person would say, even if you looked at this from the most critical point of view that I can imagine, I'm sorry, when I say critical, I mean like trying to critique critical race theory. The most critical point I can imagine is we overcorrect a little, right? And then what happens then? We correct for the overcorrection. To me, that seems like the worst thing that can happen. What does James Lindsay think the worst thing that can happen is? Any guesses? Any guesses? Marxism.
going to work because it's based all on false premises about how human beings and society operate. This is just another version of communism. This one's very different, though, than previous episodes because previously we did not have the...
Wait a second.
Than previous worked and is not going to work because it's based all on false premises about how human beings and society operate. This is just another version of communism.
Just another version of communism.
This one's very different, though.
But it's very different
than previous episodes because previously we did not have the levels of technology that we have now. If you read the literature from the 60s, the Marxist literature from the 60s, they all talk about that when technology gets sufficiently good, and even Marx would have been looking at this, when technology gets sufficiently good, you have no need for the laborer anymore, blah, blah, blah. And so then you can have all this leisure and you can have communism and it'll work.
That sounds great to me, James.
And now machines can do a huge variety of jobs where we have social media, we have coming down the pike.
What is social media? What does that have to do with
implants like Neuralink that Elon Musk is talking about, where the internet's hooked straight into your freaking head?
Okay, first of all, oh my God, if Elon Musk gets credit for Neuralinks or the internet being piped straight into your brain, I won't ever be able to stop talking about it. The guy is taking credit for so much already. The idea of the internet being directly linked to your brain goes back in my memory to at least Neuromancer, written by William Gibson in the 80s, I think. And it probably goes back more than that. So I just want to say that's not Elon Musk.
So what does it look like if we...
But that's the group he wants to be in, that group. Like when you're thinking about, the conservative or neoliberal intelligentsia and thought leaders, James Lindsay, Elon Musk.
Do nothing if we don't resist this. I will tell you that a short order way station is going to be what it's like in China right now.
Wow. It took him less than a minute to get to China. So basically, yeah, if we don't stop critical race theory, if we don't stop looking at our past and trying to learn from it, we're going to turn into China.
Moving toward China is the first step. So we'll have a vicious social credit system. Critical race theory, it will be based on something called ESG,
Okay, so note, he brings up ESG scores here. Okay. Note that. That's important.
Environmental, social, and governance scores. Right now, companies have those, but individuals will have them eventually. Critical race theory will help define part of the S, the social component of your ESG score.
So what he's saying there is ESG scores are these scores that are given to companies based on their carbon footprint, how inclusive they are, and how compliant they are. That score currently, right, is given by a non-governmental agency, by another MCSI, I think it is, by another corporation whose job it is to essentially audit companies so that people know or can invest knowing more about the company. I mean, it's just like knowing the market cap index of a company, right? Like you want to know these things. It's more information about the company being made available to, and I don't agree with the stock market, and I don't agree with capitalism at all, but that's the point of this system. I like his mouth there.
Your social credit score will determine your buying and selling, your ability to move.
Well, wait a second. He catastrophized it to
your buying and selling.
Did he really do that quickly?
Critical race theory will help define part of the S, the social component of your ESG score. Your social credit score will determine your buying and selling, your ability to move.
He's talking about it now as if like you personally have an ESG score, which is what Michaela Peterson takes from it.
Your ability to leave your house, to do things and whatever. And so look at what's in China, put it on steroids, and if we do nothing, that's where we're going. How bad that can get depends on who the technocrats are, the so-called stakeholders are that are going to dictate what people get to do depending on their ESG social credit score.
Your mother.
But it's going to be some form of communism and or fascism mixed together.
Definitely. Yeah. We got to stop this at all costs.
And if you don't want to live in that, you should probably resist it.
So you remember how like the S&P 500 was established? When was that established? I don't know how long ago. But that market index system was created. And then like a decade later, there was the S&P 500 for citizens. Oh, wait, that didn't happen. But apparently it's going to happen now with ESG scores.
Okay, ESG. Where did you get that acronym?
Okay, so she's never heard of ESG scores before. It's fine. I had not heard of ESG scores prior to this either.
Oh, that's everywhere. You Google it. You'll find it all over the place. It's part of the sustainability movement or the sustainability development goals. ESG is so the goal is to make everything sustainable in terms of environmental concerns, and then
the goal is to make everything sustainable.
Social unrest issues, and that's where critical race theory and post-colonial theory and all these other critical theories of identity come in. Environmental is obviously going to be like climate change stuff, and they're going to score companies and eventually individuals based on their behavior.
And eventually individuals. He just throws that in there, right? They're perfectly within their purview to score companies. Like people are perfectly in their purview to say, I am establishing this system by which we are going to rate companies. Corporations have more rights than people generally in the U.S. They can't be sued in the same ways that people can be sued. Crap.
In accordance with this. And then governance is how well are you following so-called best practices that they set up. But for individuals, it will be how well are you being governed? How well are you? If the government says get an injection today, do you go get it today? Your G score went up. If they
Like, this is just Kurt Vonnegut, late 60s era fiction, or Orwellian, right? This is just fear mongering.
stay home for the next 3 weeks to flatten some imaginary curve or to lower carbon emissions for the month of January.
By the way, there's no precedent or evidence that even if ESG scores were co-opted by the government and enforced on corporations, which I wouldn't care if they were, right? That it's then going to go on to citizens. Like, that would never happen. It could never happen. And we'll get to that.
Then, or turn off your heat for the month of January, then your G score goes up because you're responding to the governance. Watch this propaganda video, your G score goes up. It's very much like what they're doing in China, although they don't use the acronym ESG. But
ESG is not an acronym; it's an initialism.
G is not something that
I'll take every win I can get, no matter how petty.
Up, it's not. It's all over, all through. Just type it into the search engine. You'll see environmental, social governance, ESG scores, and you will see that this is in fact how they determine already how much asset management or whatever. If you get listed in, what are they called? ETFs? Is that what they're called? Electronic trading funds or something like that. If you want to be in the big mutual funds, you've got to have, as a company, your publicly traded company has to have a high ESG score already.
No, your company does not have to have a high ESG score. And look how outraged she looks. But first of all, it wouldn't matter even if that was the case, right? If there are certain mutual funds can choose whatever corporations they want to include on whatever basis they want. When you're being provided with like a service that's like, well, here's our portfolio of the corporations that we have in our portfolio, and we make sure that these corporations do X, Y, or Z. That's the free market. This is what you are saying that you want. This is a right talking point. This is not something that I should give a fuck about. And you're acting outraged by it because you're taking it to an illogical conclusion of, well, it's going to be applied to people. Like, people are going to have their own stock market scores.
Or else places like BlackRock, Vanguard, NASDAQ, et cetera, won't list you.
It's perfectly within their purview not to list you if they don't want to.
Yes. Welcome to how this is actually happening. This is the reality of how this is happening.
This is the reality. That's literally all speculative. There's nothing there that's reality that he just said, except for the fact ESG scores do exist. They are assigned by a private corporation to other corporations that investors and investment funds can look at to grade corporations, along with like a ton of other indicators. Like, like, let's assume I'm a free market capitalist. Is it terrible if we force transparency for publicly traded companies to be able to see what they make in a year and what their market caps are and what their liabilities are? Oh wait, we do that. Right? That's already done. That's how you determine who you invest in. This is just more markers, more transparency into how corporations operate. And we even like going there, like, what the fuck does that have to do with critical race theory? Because they think that that's actually, well, here, I'll give this to them. Like you said, it would be a small component of like the S score for a corporation would be like, are you doing enough for diversity and inclusion? And why would people care about that? Like, if looking at it from like a really cynical point of view, from a very cynical point of view, why do corporations care about diversity and inclusion? If you're being as cynical as you possibly can, it's so they look good on the outside, right? And they avoid some risk, right? They avoid some liabilities by being very diverse, although they gain some liabilities too in the form of fragile white males suing them for not getting jobs they thought they deserved. So I don't know. It just seems to me like a pretty. I mean, it's not even it's a slippery slope, but it's a slippery slope that that doesn't even go like in a line. It's like an exponentially kind of like, let's take this to its science fiction sort of catastrophizing, movieized Act 3 version of what could. This is a discussion of what's the worst case scenario. What's the worst thing that could possibly happen in our minds right now? Maybe even couldn't possibly happen, but the worst thing that we could imagine.
This is why every big corporation has gone woke, is because if they go woke, they get access to the trading level that makes them richer, and they don't care about their customers because they don't have to care about their customers because they make more money off of the stock trading that happens on the other side of things.
That's a short-term outlook. That right there is a short-term outlook. Like, corporations look at lots of stuff to plan how they diversify, what their strategies are, right? They don't look at just diversity and inclusion. They look at tons of stuff.
Whoa. Okay, I'm looking into that. That's crazy.
It's not.
Critical race theory is one component of the S factor of that.
It's not crazy. So then, anyway, she goes on at that point then, or a little bit after this, to speak to the opposing theory in this, which is critical race theory good, right? And as she does that, she, like I said, she basically like parrots a lot of what James Lindsay had said. Sorry, I'm giving his face so much screen real estate here. And I had to go back and like play this a couple times. I couldn't believe that this was a question that she legitimately asked. But let's listen to this question that she asked the other side, represented by Vaush. Oh, by the way, like when it came to, this is what she showed here. Oh, I know I put it in here and I can't see it. See this? Where is it? See this? Got that? I don't see it. Maybe it's, oh, it might be in this scene. Let's see if it's in this scene. Yeah, it's in this scene. Okay. This is how she presented it, right? In this episode of Opposing Views, James Lindsay and Ian Kaczynski, better known as Vaush, join me to discuss critical race theory. Blah, 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 blah. Now, James Lindsay is an American author, mathematician, and political commentator. He's known for having co-authored a series of hoax papers for social science journals, perhaps the best known being The Conceptual Penis as a Social Construct, and the one where unwanted humping at dog parks was observed day in and day out, resulting in an informed breakdown of how men would benefit from being trained like dogs. Gave him a lot of space there for what essentially, like, that is his claim to fame, is spoofing articles and seeing if he can get left-wing journals to publish them and then laughing at them and being like, ha, you published this thing that's so obviously like fake, you know, we've discredited you as a source because you published this thing. And then for Vaush, American left-wing YouTuber, libertarian market socialism, popular debates. That's all he gets. Fine. It's fine. Anyway, here's the question she asked. I can't believe this.
Do you not feel that the amount of time it would take to educate people on all the unfairness that exists between races, and then if we go outside of like racial studies, just anything, do you think the amount of time it takes to educate people on unfairness is actually worth putting in that rather than maybe teaching people how to make money?
Like, did you just, everybody heard that question, I assume. It was basically, do you not think that it might just be better not to know and just ignore this thing and just learn how to make more money? I mean, sorry, I got it.
Do you not feel that the amount of time it would take to educate people on all the unfairness that exists?
So she's even admitting there that the unfairness exists, but there's so much unfairness that it's going to take a lot of time to teach people that unfairness. So maybe it's not worth it to teach them about the unfairness. Maybe we just let the unfairness sit there and we just pretend like we'll just put it under the rug, right?
Between races, and then if we go outside of like racial studies, just anything, do you think the amount of time it takes to educate people on unfairness is actually worth putting in that rather?
I can't even get, this is Jordan Peterson's daughter, by the way. Only eats meat, does not believe in ESG scores. And at some point, I think I didn't, maybe I didn't clip that video part. She claims that in Ireland, they've already done a version of ESG scores on Irish citizens. To me, that sounded preposterous. I looked it up. I couldn't find anything. So if there's anybody here, like from the UK or, who knows anything about some kind of individual level scoring system that Ireland puts on its citizens to track how compliant they are with government diktats, I would love to know that. Because she presented that as true, not as something that was going to happen in the future, something that already has happened to Irish citizens. And the next step there is just, it's going to happen to all around the world. Anyway, I got to get the face off there. So that's sort of what I've been stewing on for the past, 10 days or so. I wish I could say that, like, I'm shocked. I was a little shocked. Like, I was a little shocked by that question. That question just seemed like so, like, throwing in the towel at that point. Like, I've lost any ability to rationally argue that these things don't exist or that they aren't bad. So I'm going to concede that they exist and they are bad, but maybe it's going to take too long when we could be using that time learning to make money. So, I mean, I think it's clear from that, right? And she's not a debater. I'm not a debater, right? So, fine. Like, and if she were anybody else other than Jordan Peterson's daughter, I wouldn't hone in on that. But I just felt like it was so. I wasn't trying to target her. I was following James Lindsay, and the two top things that I found that he went on recently were Joe Rogan's podcast and Mikhail Peterson's podcast. But I just felt like that was, at that point, it was just like, you might as well concede the debate, the opposing view at that point. But I do think that's why, because I was wondering when I was reading it, when I was watching it initially, I was like, well, why doesn't she have like them both on at the same time? Why hasn't she mediated an actual debate between these two people? And it's just because she couldn't, right? Maybe that's her aim, and that's fine, right? Maybe in a year, that's what she will be doing, and that'll be fine. But she wasn't. I think if she did it now, it would be a sort of steamroller event. You'd have very ill-informed, but very sure of themselves idiots, just kind of talking all over. So that's what I wanted to discuss. And now I'm done. Conclusion. Critical race theory, good. And even if you subscribe to the cynical view that corporations do it or embrace it only for appearance's sake, Still good. How do you get, fake it till you make it then? Anybody have anything they want to talk about? Yeah, this is exactly the tact that most of the conservatives take when they're talking about this subject. It's acknowledge it and you're racist. We live in a post-racial society, don't we? Anyway, that one was for Václav. Are these, potential other things to talk about? It was a guess, yeah. It was a guess, although it was a well-informed guess. I had eliminated like 8 very common letters. Let's talk about Wordle. Why is Wordle a success? Plain and simple, because you can share the results on Twitter in a way that doesn't spoil the game for anyone and is intriguing to those who have never played Wordle, because they're like, what the hell is that? It's marketing genius and very simple. And they haven't monetized it in any way, but that's how they get you, right? You think there's not somebody right now thinking, how can we get some money out of all the people playing Wordle right now, without chasing them all away? And probably inevitably, like, that's what's going to happen, is they'll chase people away, or people are just going to get tired and move on to the next thing. But maybe that's too cynical of a view. Maybe. I tell you all, I finished Prey. Trying to find a new game to play that I enjoy. I've been trying to play 12 minutes, but frankly, I hate it. Like, I just hate it. I don't think it's a bore. What else did I try? And I'm trying to get through Life is Strange too, and I'm also kind of like, well, this is kind of a bore. But oddly, for me, this is very odd, is I feel like I want more action, which is not normal for me. And I keep circling around the Guardians of the Galaxy game. And I keep seeing, hey, this is got great reviews, single player, narratively driven, interesting characters. And then I think of Peter Quill, whatever, fucking that guy, Parks and Rec dude. And I know he's not even in the game, right? It's kind of like it's like a Miles Morales version, right? Golden Light. I know Dying Light 2 is coming out very soon. There's a few games coming out very soon that I'm interested in. Yes. Chris Pratt. Right. Man. Talk about like a sort of a cultural fall. Like, he went from like media darling to, can this guy just not be given another fucking job? Pretty quick. I played Hollow Knight. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I didn't play it. I played like maybe a few hours of it. But I enjoyed it. But I didn't complete it or anything. I want something like Prey. I enjoyed Deathloop. Finished Deathloop. I enjoyed Prey. Finished Prey. This is probably right, Colorful Dreams. I do feel like, yeah, I got to stop. At some point, I got to be like, I mean, my recommendations are really, really, if someone saw my recommendations, they'd be like, ooh, shit, this guy getting recommended all kinds of right-wing nut jobs. I was going to say left and right, but right and right. So people who would see those recommendations, and I would have to be like, no, I watch this because I don't like. I don't know if people buy that or not. Wait, how did I miss this? This is not true. Is that true, Václav? How did I miss that? That would be relaxing. Who is conservative? Indigo? Talking about Jordan Peterson again? Can you not be obsessed with Jordan Peterson, Indigo? Oh, that's not cool. Well, things are not great on the Troy Baker front either, right? Launching his own NFT. I don't know. Maybe cut the guy a little bit of slack. I don't know that much stuff, Indigo. I think you might be surprised at what my blind spots are. I mean, if I'm good at crosswords, it's probably only because I've been around for a while. I loved Stalker. Stalker 2 might be, but it keeps getting delayed, which makes me wonder about it in a lot of ways. So we'll see. I mean, I might just give Guardians of the Galaxy a try. No, I can't. I'm imagining it in my brain right now. All I think about is he had lobster cufflinks on too. Like he's like cannibalistic of his own identity. He's really buying into his own parodic display of himself. He's fully something pilled. It's not a red pill. It's not a blue pill. He took the JP pill. Wait a minute, Amy, are you saying this because you have played the game, or are you talking about the movie? No, I agree. Well, I don't know. I don't think I look like him. I think he's, maybe 5 years ago. I don't know. I think he was a good-looking fella. Like imagine him not insane, like rational and compassionate. Imagine him the opposite of what he is. Well, thanks for coming by, Paulo. Yeah, get dinner. I think I need dinner too. I didn't eat before stream tonight. So I don't know what I'm going to be playing. I'm going to figure something out, but I gotta take up more of my time doing something other, something a little more active than what I'm doing. Okay, Q said I gotta go eat. And I've exhausted what I was going to talk about, which means it's time to bring up the ripped off Phoenician Sailor version of the Life is Strange music. Maybe listen to some Ghost. I don't know if y'all like theater rock, melodic metal. I don't know what you would call it. That new Ghost song is good. It's called Face the Sunshine. I enjoyed it. It's got a good riff. Anyway, with that, I will leave you and see you next week, if not sooner. I am thinking about different things that I can do here and stream a little more, but I would want them to be pointed and with a reason to exist, apart from just wanting to stream for the sake of streaming. So maybe might see something like that come up. It's different. It is different. A little bit different. All right, Indigo, good luck. Lots of thanks for dropping by. Thanks everyone else for dropping by. Q, thank you for everything as usual, and also I like your hoodie. And we'll talk soon. All right. Good night.